This program is brought to you by the Singapore Institute of International Affairs and key sponsor Keppel Offshore and Marine with the following partners.
In the wake of Japan's recent nuclear accident, ASEAN countries have had to rethink their energy supply chain and how that affects their economy and growth. In a conference organized by the Singapore Institute of International Affairs, close to 300 of Asia's top thinkers gathered to debate these issues.
As we meet today, I think we really face a lot of global turmoil. Not only are there problems in Europe, and despite the debt ceiling being raised in America, there are issues there. Amidst this turmoil in the West, everyone is looking to Asia. The energy challenges, the growing needs of almost every Asian country, but also some sense of insecurity, tempered with the possibility of regional cooperation. Energy is increasingly part of the equation here in Asia. I think this is why we're very pleased to be here and to try to bring together some of the leading thinkers, analysts, and officials of the region.
This morning, I would like to focus my remarks to you on the nexus between economic growth and energy, and what it means for ASEAN and Singapore in particular. On one level, the correlation seems somewhat self-evident. Countries which have access to reliable and competitively priced energy tend to be better able to ensure their economic competitiveness and sustain their growth. Demand-side efforts, such as improving energy efficiency in the industrial sector, can help to reduce energy consumption and improve energy security. And to this end, many regional groupings have set energy intensity targets to reduce them. However, it's quite clear that governments cannot rely on demand-side initiatives alone. The fact of the matter is, ensuring reliable energy supply will still be critical to sustaining economic growth.
In the opening panel for the day, the issue of balancing energy needs with environmental responsibility took center stage.
What is happening in this world? Energy demand will increase to 2.1 times by 2035. And the 75% of increase is coming from our East Asian regions. Think of green growth. We have here the production network here. This is very, very unique characteristics. Production network means beyond the country, connectivity. And through this connectivity, we share Kaizen or best practice, everything.
We need to find the optimal performance point, and we know that we can't do it alone. We need to cooperate, and I think this is where opportunities abound for us in Asia to come together. Now we need a common platform on this issue of energy and also environment, and the interplay between energy and environment. The challenges that we face today really, on one hand, rising fuel prices and oil prices, and on the other, concerns that stem from climate change issues. And that might affect the competitiveness of our industry and also affect those that are on a wave of growth.
When we're talking about demand-side management of energy, we're talking really about, as we are using energy, when we use energy, how we can conserve, how can we also use it much more efficiently. And even today, as we're building the most modern structures, the design in of the energy component part, how to conserve, how to be as efficient as we can be, how to manage it, not just putting in the equipment, but how to have a total system management so that we are energy light, is something where the concepts are there. There are actually no shortage of professional expertise available where we can go and learn how to do this. But I think it's the failure of developers and managers and operators to try and squeeze as much out of what we already know. Okay, nuclear power. China, we're in a different place. And with Fukushima, of course, we know the decisions of the Chinese policymakers. They temporized their approval of projects. But let us remind ourselves what we already have in China. We are a nuclear nation. We have 14 functioning reactors. And if we look at between now and 2020, which is not that far away, we are committed to go up to 40 nuclear reactors. This is what's committed. This is what's not really going to change. And this is what is going to take us to targets that the Chinese government have already put on the table.
I just want to capture the message here, that is that if you look at historically how things have developed in terms of the economy, environment and so on, you find that the power is actually shifting from the governments. Governments is very strong in terms of regulations. It is going to the private corporations and now the consumers. You find that now more and more environment is part and parcel of the economy and trade. You cannot neglect it, or you cannot treat it as something different. And green consumerism is now becoming very important. People are demanding what they want. They choose what they want to buy, irrespective of what the government says. I think the good news is that with the private sector coming in, putting up products that people want, and the people making a choice, I think we have a better hope.
Thank you, Raman.
Singapore's Prime Minister meets the media on the eve of nomination day. He weighs in on the role of the President and took the opportunity to talk about how his government has worked with current President S.R. Nathan.
This 17th August, on the 11th hour, witness how the story of the 7th President of the Republic of Singapore begins. With ground reports from our seasoned journalists and expert analysis on the candidates. The Singapore presidential election. Nomination Day. 17th August, Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Live and exclusive, only on Channel News Asia.
If you have a story to tell, of unforgettable memories, of unique journeys, share it with us on our Facebook page, Beyond the Last Journey, by end August, and we'll tell Asia your story.
They said I couldn't win a fight, but I did. They said I couldn't fight above my weight class, but I did. They said I couldn't get elected to Congress, but I did. Now, I'm trying to make it in music. Sometimes when we touch millions of hits.
Click, stack, and move between active apps seamlessly. Only on the new HP touchpad with WebOS.
We've had 4 quite different presentations, centered around these themes, different angles of the energy, economy, and environment equations. Let's pick up on that point about cooperation or connectivity in ASEAN or the wider Asia. And let's try to draw Nishimura-san and then Raman out on this.
This year is a very important timing because Japan face a serious calamity that will trigger a kind of fundamental review of the energy policy in this region. I'm sure we need East Asian IEA. We are a big demander. The 75% of increase of demand is in this region. This year, we started Energy Security Index. We must share. Each country knows what is a critical situation and don't request too much for the suppliers.
Now, the other contextual, I think, issue that really needs to be drawn out is this year a very important year for Asia in a sense of, the post-Fukushima scenario. In a sense that both Germany and Japan, two major industrial economies, are looking at scaling down, phasing out nuclear power. In Japan today, if my recollection is right, almost half the nuclear reactors are offline. They're facing a summer where they will have to look for efficiencies or really have no power. This is for a major industrial economy. Does the world look quite different post-Fukushima? How should we be thinking, Christine?
I would say that if we look more broadly at this issue and not just ask the question of how fast ASEAN as a group of countries are moving, I think you get a different answer. Now, in the post-Fukushima world, I'm also wondering what we are really looking at. I mean, the range of things we're looking at. So one thing is who can build nuclear plants and where you're going to build them. So the Fukushima discussion has already affected discussions in China on non-nuclear infrastructure building. For example, hydroelectric power. We are going to see China continue with building out dams all over the place.
Just a comment on the nuclear power discussion. Of course, it's a huge discussion in Germany. Yes, and Germany is buying already nuclear energy from France. So this is not what will happen in the future. So no, this is a major issue. What I comment is that Germany has decided a very, very bold step to increase the already high level of green energy, which is then 17-18%, to 35% by 2022. I mean, this is certainly a major step which will impact on people, on jobs, on the grid. We will have developments in the grid stability which haven't been seen before.
Hi, Simon. I thought I would just pose a hypothetical question, which could arise in the next 10 years. What if either the Indonesian government or the Malaysian government announced that they were building a major nuclear installation, either in Batam or in Johor? Singapore launches a vehement protest that this puts the entire country at risk. What role would ASEAN play in adjudicating?
Now, this hypothetical thing about building a nuclear power plant close to Singapore, whether ASEAN can put a stop to it. I think at the moment we don't operate that way. If the issue just comes up, of course we have the consultative forum, right from the technical groups and so on. And it's up to any member state to bring up this issue and how to resolve it amicably. But the good thing about ASEAN is we have dialogues, forums at different levels where we can resolve any of these potential issues.
Nuclear. If Japanese government has decided to phase down of nuclear matters, it's a very good chance for other country. Other country has its own strategy to decide. That means Japan has a lot of investment, technology, know-how, a lot of experts everybody can use this huge asset.
Well, thank you, Nishimura-san. I wanted to ask you to join me in thanking the whole panel. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon, everybody, once again. Currently, there are different stages of development among the ASEAN nations when it comes to nuclear plants. And we felt that it was timely for us to take a look at the various policy case studies throughout the region. And we were quite well represented on today's panel to have individuals from basically all the countries in ASEAN who have expressed quite firm nuclear plans.
Now, in terms of nuclear in Malaysia, Malaysia started sending people to pursue nuclear engineering and studies in related nuclear area way back in the late 60s and early 70s. But what happened? Malaysia discovered oil and gas in the mid 70s, so nuclear was put into the background. So why nuclear? And why now? Oil and natural gas prices, that's the other one. Now, oil prices have been increasing. In 1999, it was about $10 a barrel. This year, with the Middle East crisis, the Brent crude oil was up to about $120 per barrel. So that was one of the reasons given for going to nuclear. Post-Fukushima, public are more concerned about their safety and there's more awareness about radiation issues. Some state government, for example, the Selangor state government, and they're the only ones who actually have conducted open dialogue, not in my backyard. MPs are worried. So for the government, after the decision is to hold back, to reassess, and to come up with a decision sometime in 2013 or 13-14.
The first concern is obviously, security, because in a country where the problem of negligence, problem of corruptions, and also, problem, of disaster, and also a lack of ability to really respond to disaster adequately, and then nuclear, power plant is not really quite attractive, Even there is a joke, in the country that, the country cannot even run, train schedule, properly, how can you run a nuclear power plant? The second set of arguments is about national security, because Indonesia is one of the very highly nationalistic, country. When, the people and especially the politicians, when they realize that, we don't have any uranium and then we have to import it from Australia, and then this kind of politician basically says, forget it. We are not going, to depend on Australia, for, our energy needs. The third set of arguments is about long-term security implications, especially, for the regions. Nobody can dispute the fact that, Southeast Asia is not a regional community yet. We are still trying to be one, and I think it's even more difficult, in the political and security domain that, ASEAN countries, can be a regional community where all the dispute will be resolved through peaceful means. I'm not really sure, that, conflict will never, happen among the ASEAN countries. So once, a member state, acquire, this nuclear technology, I'm sure that there would be forces within any ASEAN countries, who are quite tempted to push even further. Let's go into nuclear weapons.
Thank you very much, Rizal, for quite an interesting perspective in terms of looking at the issue of nuclear in a broader sense.
This 17th August, on the 11th hour, witness how the story of the 7th President of the Republic of Singapore begins, with ground reports from our seasoned journalists and expert analysis on the candidates. The Singapore presidential election, Nomination Day, 17th August, Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Live and exclusive, only on Channel News Asia. Thursday, the Pupil returns on 5 for a brand new season with a whole lot more of women power.
Let's get straight to the point, shall we?
More bark.
Did my client threaten
More bite.
Our client just wants the money, which your client can well afford. My client is not a charity.
And a whole lot more surprises.
My associate's on her way up. Good morning, everyone.
Introducing Tan Keng Hua and Mindy Ong. The Pupil Season 2 premieres Thursday at 8 p.m. on 5. The story of what makes you human. You are the most fascinating creature ever to have drawn breath on this planet. And the reason lies deep in your skin. Hidden deep inside you is a wonderful dynamic world. This is a fantastic voyage of the most complex organism on Earth. Inside the human body, a brand new series starts 31st August, 8:30 p.m. on Channel News Asia.
The presidential election will be held on August 27th. There will be 2 presidential candidate broadcasts on television and radio. The first broadcast in English will be aired on Thursday, 8 p.m. on Channel News Asia.
I think I'll now like to give everyone a chance to ask some questions. Obviously, this is quite a hot topic in recent weeks and months, and most likely will be for some time ahead. So let's open this now to the floor and take questions.
Yeah, I'm Anjaya from Jakarta. I think even some people have concerns, like in Indonesia, Dr. Rizal pointed out that Indonesia is not a stable, geographically not stable region because of earthquakes and all the disasters. The Russians offered even that you cannot build, if you don't want a nuclear plant on the ground, even they are ready to build a nuclear power plant, a floating power plant on the seas. Thank you.
I think we can't even detect, a small tugboat that try to, hijack big ship. How can we detect boat, if they try to, destroy the floating, NPP, floating nuclear power plant? That's number one. Number two, I think the argument is really, of course, everybody I think in the country agree that, nuclear option should always be there. But, while, other less risky, resources available, why go there? Why not try to exploit, safer sources of, energy? So that's, I think, the state of the discussion at the moment. It's not like saying that, nuclear is out, of questions at all. So, but, as long as the coal is there, as long as water is there, as long as, geothermal can still be used, and also other sources of energy can be exploited, then why go nuclear? Simply because all the, worries that I have listed, earlier, because I forgot to mention, the possible attack, by a terrorist group as well, especially, if you put it on the sea, we can't, we can't know, when accident, might happen.
My question is, as these plans are currently on hold in Malaysia and Indonesia, to what extent is the thinking accounting for some of the technological progress and dynamism that might have happened in the nuclear sector?
In this region, if we would like to put up nuclear, as Rizal has stated it earlier, the safety culture in the first place, is it there? There is already a nuclear power plant within ASEAN. That is in Philippines, Bataan. It was established years back under Marcos. But after the 3 Mile Island incident, they did a check on the Bataan plant, and they found out the number of faults. And it was also built near a fault line. And there was this corruption behind it, which was again back to the issue that Rizal raised earlier. So if we would like to have nuclear plant within the region, and no matter how safe or how new the technology is, you have to go through all the various steps first. Don't abandon it, but, be prepared. Be ready for nuclear.
Just only one question.
Sure.
I know the difficulty pertaining to nuclear usage for Myanmar. But in this occasion, why don't you teach the detailed information for Myanmar people, the situation?
I think it's really the problem, between Myanmar and other ASEAN countries, because we demand that, they are more transparent, in responding to those, informations or speculation outside, with regard to their plan to acquire nuclear weapon technology. It's the right of every country, to actually use nuclear for peaceful, use. But the problem is really when it comes, to the questions of building, weapons. So that's, I think, the most sensitive and also the most devastating dimensions of these ASEAN countries, moving toward nuclear technology, nuclear, power plant, nuclear sources. Because in my view, we don't have enough mechanism yet, to make sure 100% that even though, say, after all 10 countries, begin to operate the nuclear power plant and then acquire, the nuclear technology, but they will not, move one more step ahead, in order to acquire the capability to produce, nuclear weapons.
I think we can say like this, because if Myanmar would like to have the power plant in his country, I think I quite trust that Myanmar government will follow the international standards to have the power plants. And I think that's a weak point of the ASEAN country and Asia country, because if Vietnam have right to have the nuclear power, Burma right to have, we never have the forum to discuss together among our countries, right? Is it safe in your country? It's not effective of my country. We never talk together. It's the key point as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions, and thank you to the panel. I think one thing is clear, if not a lot of things are clear regarding nuclear, is that there are many factors and many issues to be considered. It's a very complex form of energy. It's a very complex issue that touches not just all elements of society, but your neighbors and other people within the region as well. And I'd like to echo Dr. Rizal's sentiments that, we're not saying no to nuclear, but there are other options, and there are other options that seem to be a little bit more attractive right now. And nuclear, while not necessarily something to be scratched off the list, could possibly be considered a bit lower down. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking the panel for their time.
This program was brought to you by the Singapore Institute of International Affairs and key sponsor Keppel Offshore and Marine, with the following partners. Whenever you are